What if I told you that the single ingredient sitting in almost everything in your kitchen right now, from your morning cereal to your favorite sauce, might be quietly driving inflammation, wrecking your energy levels, and aging your body faster than almost anything else you eat? It's not some rare toxin or an exotic chemical. It's sugar, and most of us have no idea just how much of it we're actually consuming, or what it's really doing inside our bodies once it gets there. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why sugar has such an outsized effect on your health, and more importantly, what you can start eating instead to protect your body from the damage. Welcome back to VitaRoot Health, the channel where we simplify nutrition science and functional medicine research so you can make informed decisions about your health. If you're new here, we focus on understanding the root cause behind chronic symptoms rather than just treating what's on the surface. And today's topic is one of the biggest root causes of chronic disease in the modern world. Quick reminder before we dive in, this channel is independent, not affiliated with any specific doctor, and everything shared here is for educational purposes only, not medical advice. Always speak with your own healthcare provider before making major changes to your diet. Now let's get into why sugar deserves so much of your attention. The first thing to understand is that not all sugar is the enemy here. Sugar naturally found in whole fruits, for example, comes packaged with fiber, water, and a whole range of vitamins and antioxidants that slow down how quickly that sugar hits your bloodstream. The real problem is added sugar, the kind manufacturers pour into processed foods to make them taste better, last longer on shelves, and keep you coming back for more. Added sugar shows up in places you would never expect. Things like pasta sauce, salad dressing, bread, flavored yogurt, and even foods marketed as healthy or low-fat. In fact, when manufacturers remove fat from a product, they often add sugar to make up for the lost flavor, which is part of why so many low-fat foods are quietly loaded with it. Most health organizations recommend keeping added sugar intake fairly limited, yet the average person today consumes far more than that, often without even realizing it, simply because sugar is hidden inside so many everyday products under dozens of different names. So what actually happens inside your body when you eat sugar, especially in the amounts most people consume today? When you eat something high in sugar, it gets broken down quickly and absorbed into your bloodstream, causing a rapid spike in blood glucose. Your pancreas responds by releasing insulin, a hormone whose job is to move that sugar out of your blood and into your cells, where it can be used for energy. This process works fine occasionally, but when it happens repeatedly, meal after meal, day after day, your cells can start to become less responsive to insulin over time. This is a state called insulin resistance, and it's one of the earliest and most important steps on the path toward type 2 diabetes. But insulin resistance doesn't just affect blood sugar, it also contributes to weight gain, especially around the midsection, and it creates a ripple effect that touches nearly every other system in the body. One of the most significant ways sugar damages your body is through chronic inflammation, the same low-grade, ongoing immune response we talked about in a previous video. High sugar intake has been shown to trigger the release of inflammatory molecules in the body, and over time, this constant inflammatory state has been linked to heart disease, joint pain, skin issues like acne and premature wrinkling, and even mood disorders like anxiety and depression. There's also a process called glycation, where excess sugar molecules in your bloodstream attach themselves to proteins and fats, forming harmful compounds called advanced glycation end products. These compounds are particularly damaging to collagen, the protein responsible for keeping your skin firm and elastic, which is a big part of why diets high in sugar are associated with faster visible skin aging. Sugar also has a powerful and often underappreciated effect on your brain. Every time you eat something high in sugar, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter involved in other reward and pleasure responses. This creates a cycle where sugar starts to feel almost addictive, driving cravings and making it genuinely difficult to cut back, even when you know it's not serving your health. Beyond the craving cycle, high sugar intake has also been linked to brain fog, mood swings, and energy crashes, largely because of the rapid spike and subsequent crash in blood sugar that follows a sugary meal or snack. That afternoon slump many people experience, reaching for coffee or another sugary snack just to get through the rest of the day, is very often a direct result of this blood sugar roller coaster, rather than simply being tired. And then there's the gut. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria that play a massive role in digestion, immunity, and even mental health. And the balance of these bacteria is heavily influenced by what you eat. Diets high in sugar tend to feed less beneficial types of bacteria and yeast in the gut, while starving out the beneficial strains that support a healthy microbiome. Over time, this imbalance, sometimes called dysbiosis, can contribute to bloating, digestive discomfort, and even further drive inflammation throughout the body, creating a cycle that reinforces itself the longer it continues. There's also a longer-term consequence that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and that's the impact sugar has on your cardiovascular system. Diets consistently high in added sugar have been associated with higher triglyceride levels, changes in cholesterol patterns, and increased blood pressure, all of which are risk factors for heart disease. Part of this comes back to the liver, since excess sugar, particularly in the form of fructose found in many sweetened beverages, gets processed by the liver and can be converted into fat when consumed in large amounts. Over time, this can contribute to a condition called fatty liver disease, which many people don't even associate with diet at all, let alone with sugar specifically. This is one of the clearest examples of how a single dietary pattern can quietly affect an organ system that feels completely unrelated on the surface. It's also worth talking about how sugar interacts with your hormones beyond just insulin. Consistently high sugar intake has been linked to disruptions in hormones that regulate hunger and fullness, specifically ghrelin and leptin. When these hormones are out of balance, it becomes harder for your brain to accurately sense when you're full, which can lead to overeating without you consciously realizing it's happening. This is part of why highly processed, sugar-heavy foods are often described as engineered to be hard to stop eating, because on a biological level, they're working against your body's natural fullness signals rather than with them. Now here's the part that matters most, what you can actually do about all of this, because the goal here isn't to scare you away from ever enjoying something sweet again. It's about becoming aware of where sugar is hiding and making smarter swaps that support your body instead of working against it. The first step is learning to read ingredient labels, because sugar shows up under dozens of different names. Things like high fructose corn syrup, dextrose, maltose, cane juice, and rice syrup, just to name a few. Once you start recognizing these names, you'll likely be surprised at just how many everyday products contain added sugar in some form. When it comes to satisfying a sweet craving, whole fruit is one of the best options available, because as we mentioned earlier, the fiber in fruit slows down sugar absorption significantly compared to processed sweets. Berries in particular are a great choice, since they're lower in sugar than many other fruits while still being rich in antioxidants, something we covered in detail in our video on foods that fight inflammation. Another helpful swap is choosing naturally sweet spices like cinnamon or vanilla to add flavor to foods like oatmeal, coffee, or yogurt instead of reaching for sugar or syrup. Cinnamon in particular has even been studied for its potential role in supporting healthier blood sugar levels, making it a genuinely useful addition rather than just a flavor trick. Pairing foods together can also make a meaningful difference. Eating sugar or carbohydrates alongside protein, fiber, or healthy fats slows down how quickly that sugar enters your bloodstream, which helps prevent the sharp spike and crash cycle. For example, instead of eating an apple on its own, pairing it with a small handful of almonds or a spoonful of nut butter can help keep your blood sugar much more stable. If you're someone who enjoys baking or cooking at home, Experimenting with reducing sugar gradually in recipes is another practical approach. Most recipes can handle a meaningful reduction in added sugar without a noticeable difference in taste, and over time, your palate genuinely does adjust, making overly sweet foods taste far sweeter than they used to, and naturally sweet foods far more satisfying. It also helps to build meals around whole, minimally processed foods as the default, rather than trying to constantly resist tempting packaged options. When your everyday meals are naturally satisfying and well-balanced, cravings for sugary snacks tend to show up far less often in the first place, simply because your blood sugar and hunger hormones aren't being thrown off balance meal after meal. And finally, staying hydrated and getting consistent. Quality sleep plays a bigger role in sugar cravings than most people realize. Dehydration and sleep deprivation both interfere with the hormones that regulate hunger and appetite, which often shows up as intense cravings for quick sources of energy, usually in the form of sugar. Something as simple as drinking a glass of water or prioritizing an extra hour of sleep can meaningfully reduce those cravings before they even start. The bigger picture here is that sugar itself isn't some forbidden evil to be feared, but the sheer amount hidden throughout the modern food supply means most people are consuming far more than their bodies were ever designed to handle on a regular basis. Once you understand how sugar actually affects your blood sugar, your inflammation levels, your brain, and your gut, it becomes much easier to make small, informed swaps that add up to a real difference over time, without needing to rely on restriction or willpower alone. That brings us to the end of today's breakdown on how sugar impacts your body and what you can start doing differently. If this helped connect the dots for you, that's exactly what this channel is here for, taking complex research and turning it into something practical you can actually use in your daily life. In our next video, we're going to explore gut health in much more depth and look at exactly why it might be the most overlooked factor behind chronic disease. So if that sounds useful to you, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. If you found this video valuable, take a moment to like it and subscribe to VitaRoot Health, and drop a comment letting me know what topic you'd like broken down next. Your questions genuinely shape what we cover here, so don't hold back. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.